right, class. Well, it's December 5th. It's our final week in class, and we are winding down. And let's see, I graded the discussion for last week already, and I'll be grading your final assignment soon. And that's the building of an LMS, so building of a week's worth of courses in a learning management system. And so I'll grade that very soon and then get your grades back to you. And that's the final assignment for this class, except for a few activities that we have for this week. But first, I wanted to talk and close up our discussion about Opencourseware. So here's the MIT Opencourseware website, where a lot goes on with these courses being put available to us online. And I guess a couple of thoughts that I had. I read through all the discussions, but I was not able to respond to all of those. But as I read through those, I had some thoughts that I wanted to share in this video. So first of all is humility among teachers. And the idea there is that as teachers in the information age, we realize that we need to be humble. We need to think or not think that we are the only source of information for our students. We are not the only source of information for our students. There are plenty of different ways that that information can be gathered by our students besides us. And so that's important to remember, right? There are lots of sources from which our students can learn. And I think that the future of teaching and learning will be more about taking advantage of the learning resources that are available rather than just about what I can teach my students. So instead, teachers might think more and more, what experiences or what resources can I point my students toward that they can take advantage of, and how can I arrange or create or make these resources available to my students in a way that is advantageous to their learning. So, of course, these resources that I'm talking about mean more than just MIT, Opencourseware, or Tufts University, or what other university has Opencourseware. There are a lot of resources out there that are much more well geared to younger students as well. There are kindergarten resources, there are first grade resources, there are a whole bunch of different types of resources out there on the web. And whether it's an Opencourseware site that was intended for that purpose, or whether it's just a fun learning activity, like a fruit shoot multiplication practice activity, it can be useful for our students. So it's important to know that there are resources available out there, and to be humble, meaning that you are not the only source of information from which your students can learn. So another critique is that people were talking about on the discussion board of the Opencourseware movement is that, are they meeting the goals for reaching impoverished people? And there is such a thing as the digital divide, in which those who do not have a lot of money do not have also access to computers or to the internet. And so that is a concern. And maybe these sites don't meet the needs of those kinds of people. Also, if you look at the topics that are in something like an Opencourseware, somebody who's out there impoverished needs just some basic skills, not these high-level psychology or chemistry or calculus type skills, in order to advance their standing and their situation. So that's a question that still remains, I think, is whether we're meeting that need. However, I think a lot of people who create these courses think that there's maybe a trickle-down effect. In other words, if they put these courses out here and maybe a teacher or a knowledgeable person does use these to teach somebody who's in an impoverished situation, then that can improve their situation as well. So I think that's the thinking with these, is that there's a trickle-down kind of effect where it can trickle down to those who are impoverished, even though they may not have access themselves to the technologies to access these. Another question too is that whether people gain the knowledge that they should, and knowledge versus the ability to kind of have a discipline and stick to something on your own. And I think this is a very important key to Opencourseware as we think about it. One thing that is important, I know a lot of people, for instance, who have great knowledge. They're very, very intelligent, very smart, but they can't seem to make the knowledge work for themselves because they don't have the discipline that they need to accomplish a task. So it seems like Opencourseware can give you that knowledge side of things, but unless you already have the discipline, it's not going to be very useful for you. You have to have the discipline in order to make things work and to accomplish tasks and so forth. And so one of the points that was made that was very good, I thought, was that to get a degree, you showed that you also have the discipline. You don't just have the knowledge, but you have the knowledge and the discipline to work through something, to finish something to its end. And I think that's a very important key to being successful, is having not only the knowledge that you need, but also the discipline to stick to something and see it through. Another critique is that the instructional methods are certainly something that's still lacking from many of these courses. In fact, there has been a couple of recent studies done on MOOCs, which are similar to these Opencourseware type things, although they do offer some credit. And the method is usually traditional lecture, or as one of my colleagues put it, spray and pray and remember what I say method, which is not generally very effective. And so studies on quality of these types of courses, MOOCs and Opencourseware, just lumping them into one for this purpose anyway, showed that we really don't have very high quality instructional methods built into these courses. And what I'm talking about here is the opportunity to try something out, to test, to get hands-on with something, to be able to involve yourself in a problem and figure out the problem using the knowledge that you've learned. So these courses rarely go beyond just presenting the information, and good instructional methods mean that mention that you have to present the information, but then you also have to follow it up by applying it in a meaningful way. So that's important to know as well. Anyway, that's a little bit of an ending topic on the open educational resources that we've been talking about. This week is our final week in the class, and again, we've covered some interesting topics over the period of this class. You've learned how to, the basics of digital learning and communication. You've learned how to create some asynchronous digital communication or recorded videos. And you've also created a non-recorded video with a lesson with people online, and you've had to learn some of the ins and outs and reflect upon those experiences. And then you've also created some activities and materials that would go in a learning management system. So there's a lot we've come through this semester, and hopefully you feel like it's been a useful semester for you and you've learned some good tools and resources. As we close things out, there are some readings for graduate students, and it talks about how we can use learning management systems in a different way. So what is the future of learning management systems? How can we make a learning experience happen maybe without one? And so this one talks about that. Web 2.0, personal learning environments and the future of learning management systems. There is also a presentation, actually there are three, I believe, presentations on online learning activities outside of an LMS. So this talks about how maybe you could create some online learning activities and what are some of the considerations in these videos about what to do for activities outside of a learning management system. And then finally, we have a lesson learned discussion, and I see that some people have posted on here already. And it asks you to reflect back on the semester, think of a general concept that you feel has influenced you, and write a summary of this and then respond it to other students. So that's basically it. We really are winding down for this semester as we continue on. It's our last week of class, and like I mentioned, I'll be grading those assignments soon, but I do wish you good luck too. This is my last video for the class as well. And so I appreciate all of the thoughts and all of the work that you have done going into this class so that we can be successful as a class. And there was much shared that is very positive from the experience in this class. So I do wish you a good week and a good semester to come, and good luck in your future endeavors.